The views on this program do not reflect those of ONTV or its board of directors. Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taramina. Good morning. It is January 18th, Monday. Cloudy skies here in Lake Orion. OAA Now podcast coming at you with another episode. Ian Locke here in the studio once again. Sammy calling in. Sam.
What's up? How's everybody here?
Doing okay. I like the sunshine we had for like a brief moment over the weekend. I'm not digging on the gray.
Yeah.
But, it's winter here in Michigan. What are you going to do?
Yeah, it's odd to believe we're talking state finals for football. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it only took how many months?
It only took about at least, I believe, 5 months.
Yeah, it feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
But it's here. It's finally here. The games are done. We have some champions crowned over the weekend. The fall
finals is this week. We had semifinals. Oh wait, never mind.
What we have other sports that took place. I know you're football minded, football centric, but there's other sports taking place.
You're right. I apologize. My off ride.
And and we thought by now, obviously we're going to go over the recap of what happened in the semifinals of the state football tournament, who's alive in the OAA, who went home, and sharing the results of some other state finals where OAA teams were taking part, right? And sharing some updates on the schedule for the winter sports, which has just been kicked in the teeth once again, schedule-wise. So, we got a full slate of stuff to talk about, Sam. So, obviously, the big story was the semifinals in the football over the weekend, and boy, we had some crazy games.
We had a ton of them. I mean, my goodness. I mean, the big one for me was that West Bloomfield Belleville game. I was on Fox Sports Detroit. I mean, that was just insane. I mean, when you look at how that game unfolded, what was leading up to the game, of course, the comments from Belleville quarterback Christian Drew Reed, that motivated West Bloomfield, of course, losing twice to them. And the decision makings and all that Belleville made in that game. But that was a crazy game down there. I mean, 35-34 final there. It was a classic, but it became a tense drama.
Yeah. Double overtime.
Both defenses started off very good in the first half. Got an interception. Both sides got an interception. They got a couple they got another turnover. Belleville's defense held on strong early. They stopped Donovan Edwards on a fourth down. I thought that was the right decision to go for it on fourth down that Ron Bellamy made. But Belleville's defense, we know they're very, very good. They got a very good defensive lineman in Alabama commit Justin Payne. And then they got others as well. But that Belleville drive against West Bloomfield early on was going to set the tone early that both defenses came to play. That you weren't going to expect a 45 point game where both these teams were averaging coming in this game. But West Bloomfield struck first. I mean, Donovan Edwards, he had an 84-yard touchdown run called back due to a holding call. A few plays later, Edwards busted out a 55-yard rushing touchdown off the Wildcat formation for a 7-0 lead.
Yeah.
So we talked about Donovan Edwards. I mean, he started off early for that 7-0 lead. And that would be the score hanging in the half. Third quarter was all Belleville. They came out firing on all cylinders. Cameron Jones scored on a 13-yard touchdown run behind the play of and everything started off with Dew Reed's passing ability. We know about Dew Reed.
He throws a really nice football.
He does. I mean,
accurate and tight. I mean, it's a nice ball. And, didn't they say he have his college prospects? We never really mentioned his prospects.
I know with him, he wasn't really offered. I mean, he wasn't offered a scholarship. I mean, I know there were a couple couple of schools have recently offered Drew Reed, but I know early on in the recruiting process with him, he really wasn't offered a lot of, because I think a lot of it you got to look obviously the size.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think that was the reason why he wasn't offered a lot of scholarships. I know
he's not the
now.
tallest under center, but he's got a really nice arm, and we saw that in overtime, and we saw it during the regulation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but Cameron Jones, I thought, played a really good game for Belleville. He had he had 3 rushing touchdowns. I know he had a second touchdown from 65 yards out, but the PAT was blocked. We're going to talk about that in a minute.
The kicking
here.
game.
Yeah, the kick. We're going to talk about that kick game in a minute. But I thought Cameron Jones had a really good game, rushing the ball for Belleville. I thought that everybody knew about Belleville's prolific passing attack, but they have a good ground game as well with Cameron Jones. I mean, like,
he's a beast.
He
is a load. He's one of those the power back, hard to get down, heck of a push, and the lean he's got is just incredible.
But you know what? When we started the fourth quarter, that's when the tense drama came.
That's true.
I've been really high on Samaj Morgan of West Bloomfield. People ask me about, besides Edwards, I said Alex Short was going to be the X factor in this game. But I've been really impressed with Samaj Morgan. I mean, I think that he, he's only a sophomore wide receiver. He actually caught a pass from Short backwards, and then he threw it back to Short for a 42-yard passing touchdown. It gave West Bloomfield the 14-13 lead. And I know Edwards and Dylan Tatum both got hurt for a little bit. They were cramping up, both of them, but they got back in there. So they relied on Alex Short's athletic ability along with Samaj Morgan, and they got that when they relied on that. And that was a huge play for West Bloomfield.
That's a huge call, Sam. I mean, in that situation,
it's a gutsy call.
Huge
gutsy call. I mean, like, that was a gutsy call for them. But it worked well. It worked well for West Bloomfield. They gave the 14-13 lead at that time.
Yeah.
And then Belleville answered with a 34-yard touchdown pass from Drew Reed to Jeremiah Caldwell off a slant pass. I noticed something, though, and they had a 2-point conversion for a 20-14 lead. But I also noticed in that game, West Bloomfield had a lot of trouble guarding the slant pass. I mean, Belleville really took advantage of the slant plays West Bloomfield gave them, and it hurt West Bloomfield. You know what I mean? I was really surprised that slant was wide open most of the game.
It's one of those, try to keep it in front of you, right? I mean, we've seen college teams have difficulty with slant passes, especially if you have the personnel who can get off the line quick and make that move and that have solid hands. And then it's basically, yards after the catch. Make a play? Can you make a move after you catch it on that quick? And it also helps. It eases in the quarterback into the play, right? So you're not asking him to throw these difficult fade passes or downfield passes. It's in front of you. It's right there, and it gets a rhythm going for your offense. But it can wreak havoc on a defense if they're not staying close off the line with those who are running those slant routes.
Right, and it's right, and I think that was a problem for West Bloomfield all game long. Now Edwards did respond for West Bloomfield 2.5 minutes ago in the game. They scored from 26 yards out. He scored from 26 yards out, tying it up at 21-21. And then Belleville would just drive down the field, aided by a pass interference call. And then Belleville would attempt a 38-yard field goal to try to win the game with 11 seconds left, which is very un-Belleville-like and un-Jermaine Crowell-like, because normally Crowell likes to go all offense, all air it out. But I got to give Bellamy a lot of credit here. He iced the kicker by using all 3 of his timeouts. But also on that next play, and earlier in the game, West Bloomfield blocked the PAT attempt. So why would you go for a 38-yard field goal with 11 seconds left to go in the game, knowing that you got blocked? Why would you do that?
To win. And, just like other just like the trick play West Bloomfield ran. The coach had faith
Mhm.
in his kids to execute. Same on the
Mhm.
Belleville side of things. The coach had faith that they were going to execute, and it didn't work out for them on that 38-yard try. But you're right when it comes to if they're already getting a push on you for a PAT, they're going to get a push on you for this 38-yard field goal. And I saw some extra points kicked. The one kicked in overtime, and it didn't look all that solid. So a 38-yarder for them, assuming it was the same kicker, it was. So it would have been a stretch anyway for a 38-yarder to go in, because even the PAT in overtime was looking a bit struggled to get in.
Well, considering that with Belleville's side of things, with Crowell's side of things, you have a quarterback. You have to stage some best passer.
Yeah.
And then, why not give him a chance to at least win the game?
And that was 4th and what?
I think it was 4th and 12. 4th and 12. But West Bloom ended up blocking the kick, which went into overtime. Belleville got the ball first. They scored with Jones scoring on his 3rd touchdown.
Yeah, and that was a tough run too.
Yes, very tough run. And then Edwards answered back, going from 5 yards out, tying the score at 28.
On that one, dude, it showed his athleticism right there, because the move he made on the left side on the defender, he basically just left him standing there.
Yeah, and Edwards has been doing this all year long. And then of course Short connected with Maxwell Harrison from 5 yards out in the second overtime to give him a 35-28 lead. Of course, Harrison we know he's a Kentucky commit going to play on the other side of the ball on defense secondary. So that was a huge play for West Bloomfield. But Belleville answered.
One play, that pass was beautiful.
Do read the Darrell Johnson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was a beautiful
perfect pass in the right back end of the end zone, just lobbed it right over the defender's head, and it was easy. They made it look easy.
And then, of course, I thought to myself, okay, so I'm watching the game, so I'm saying, okay, Belleville, I said, okay, it's going to be 35-35. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Belleville coach Crowell decides to go for the win.
Yes.
With 2-point conversion. So West Bloomfield called timeout. But on that play, I thought West Bloomfield's defense, they held strong. They forced pressure. And they got to Reed and made Reed throw a really bad ball. Pass.
But what happened, let's back that up just slightly.
Mm-hmm.
Is the timeout was called, but also Belleville did not look like they had the right play in the proper formation.
No, I didn't think they did.
So when they ran out there for the play, it didn't look like they were on the same page, with the quarterback kind of motioning to his players, going, something's not right?
Yeah,
and West Bloomfield will call timeout or whatever just to get a look at what they're going to present. Mm-hmm. And then change their defense accordingly. But even when Belleville went back out after the timeout, they still looked like they were a little discombobulated of where they're supposed to be. And even the guys who are the Fox Sports announcers, Shep and
Matt Shepard and Devin Gardner.
Devin Gardner. And Devin Gardner called it. He goes, "Don't run this play." He goes, "Kick it," because he said something didn't look right. And
and I think that's the thing. When you look at, and I think we got to talk about coaching. Obviously we got to talk about Crowell's 2 decisions. Of course, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But Crowell, but they decided to go for the win, the 2-point conversion.
Yeah,
you're right. Something did not go right. West Bloomfield ended up holding strong. And they ended up celebrating.
They knew what the play was.
Yeah, they knew what it was.
Everybody was covered, and they had either a back or a defensive back break through the line and busted that play immediately.
Yep.
They said the play that they were running, at least the guys on Fox Sports, the announcers were saying that it's like a bread and butter play for them. And as soon as you identified that they were going to go, I think it was the running back, they were keying out of the backfield.
Right. Right.
that as soon as they threw two guys on him, he's covered. And now what? There was no outlet.
Yeah, there was no outlet.
And they still, I mean, it was still close on the throw. He got
yeah, it was.
it just fell incomplete, and that's the ball game.
Yeah, so now you got to look at, of course, now West Bloom is heading back to the Division I state finals for the first time since 2017. We know about that Clarkston
3-2
Clarkston fiasco. Yep, and then but I want to get back to Belleville here.
Yes,
The two plays that really are screaming at me right now. The two plays. The 38-yard field goal attempt to win the game. Knowing that you had a PAT attempt blocked, knowing that, and then the other one was that play in overtime to go for two. If you decide to kick the PAT and keep going, keep playing triple overtime, this might be a different outcome.
It may have been, and once, like I mentioned before, when we saw this kind of confusion on the personnel of where they're supposed to be two times.
Yeah,
and I believe there was still a timeout remaining. They could have called timeout, and they could have thrown the kicker out there. And I guess it's the mindset of Belleville's coach to say, hey, I trust my offense more than my defense.
Well,
is that kind of where you?
Got a very good defense. So,
well, I know.
Got a very good defense.
I know. I'm just I'm like you. I'm trying to figure this thing out. And as we're watching, we're going, kick it. If you kick it, you tie the game. You're still playing.
Yeah, you're
still playing. But I understand. It's like if you want it, go take it. And
yeah, but if you want to go take it, you're putting a big risk on you if you don't make it.
Yeah, it's almost like if you kick it, you get two more opportunities to win.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So one is on defense, and then you'll get the ball back.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm not a coach, thank God.
I thought.
But that's a tough call. But leave it in the hands of your guys to say we want to go for it, and you trust that. Hey, this is your team, your time. Go make it happen.
I thought what helped West Bloomfield in this game was that they played in overtime before. I remember the 2019 game, 4 overtime classic against Lake Orion.
Yeah, that was
and
crazy.
Then this year's game, when they lost in overtime to Clarkston, that was the reason why West Bloomfield went down to Belleville this season, was that that overtime loss to Clarkston. So they had experience. They've experienced both sides, winning and losing. I don't think Belleville had experienced overtime games. They were blowing people out like crazy.
Yeah.
69, 68 scores and all that.
Yeah.
But I just think when you look at, I got to give Coach Ron Bellamy credit here. He made the right moves this week. He got his kids motivated. I view Ron Bellamy as an alchemist. You know what I mean? He finds, one thing you don't do with a player is put things to motivate your opponent out there.
Yeah.
Christian Jury did that. And that motivation that motivated West Bloomfield, who was already incensed after losing the last 2 years to Belleville, and that got him motivated. So when you look at the celebration after the game, you know what I mean? It kind of felt, I'm not being mean here, but it kind of felt like, like West Bloomfield, the monkey was off their back. It's what it was. The monkey was off their back after losing 2 years to Belleville. That would be, So.
Well, we've seen it with teams over the years on the college, pro, and high school level that you have that, the opponent that you meet up against every once in a while, and sometimes you just can't beat them. You fall. It's close, or you get, you just can't do it. And when you finally break through, boy, this gives them a lot of confidence going into next Saturday, don't you think? I mean, Belleville's no slouch, and to finally get through, and you're on to Ford Field, that's got to give them some confidence.
That opponent you're playing is the defending Division I state champions in Davison.
True,
You know,
but still, it
that's
doesn't
gonna
mean
be
you can't have confidence going into the game. You're confident in each
sure.
other and in the scheme and everything else. You're ready to go.
Oh, sure. I mean, like, I get it. You know what I mean? You got a ton of confidence. They're riding a lot of confidence. You know, let's not forget West Bloomfield's defense was also a pretty good defense as well. I mean, like,
Yes.
you know, the 34 points they gave up was to a very good Belleville team. So
Yeah,
that's going to
and
be a very
it's
interesting
it's
game.
still an overtime situation, and
Hmm.
look at the in regulation, what they did in regulation. I'm not a big fan of overtime. I don't mind it, but to say it, we've never talked about this. We should talk about my feelings on overtime. Is
Hmm.
to you start them at the 10-yard line or whatever it was for high school. I think it's 25. Is it for
Yeah,
college?
college is 25. High school, it's 10.
Yeah, and you're counting these as touchdowns and touchdowns. I'm like, you should just count it as one, because it bothers me because you didn't go the length of the field and you're spotting them yards. I don't know. That's just me. That's a tangent. But
Would you go? Would you go the NFL route? Maybe. You know what I mean? When it
yes,
comes
play
to
football, play the game.
okay,
You at least get, each team at least gets the ball and you play football. You don't spot them, at the 10 and you go from there. I know it can speed up the game to get, to conclude the game in overtime. But I think if you play the game, you put time on the clock and you go, I'd rather have that all day long.
it makes a lot of sense. But
But anyway,
you
I mean,
know,
but these are the rules that we have, and this is the outcome that came out of those rules. And West Bloomfield's rolling into Ford Field.
they're heading to Ford Field. Another team we got to talk about was Oak Park.
The Magic
they
season comes to an end, or the Magic
they
postseason, I should say.
they played their game at the new St. Baptist Field at De La Salle Collegiate on Saturday afternoon. They needed to get a waiver approved by the Warren City Council to play that game. And this game was really tight, interesting. Oak Park got out to just a horrendous start. They gave up a safety in the first quarter. They gave a safety, and then they gave a late touchdown by Brent Stanley, making the score 10-0. So Oak Park's already down 10-0 to start. Nothing was going their way, and then Glennie Cross took back a 33-yard punt return for a touchdown that made it 10-6, and Oak Park also would block a field goal attempt late in the first half to keep the score at 10-6. So, so you're thinking here, Oak Park's in a fight, but they had another miserable start.
Yeah.
And you can't let Brent Stanley go off, and they let him go off. You can't do that. And the third quarter, Warren DSL had to all start off. Brady draws back, connected to wide receiver Alton McCullum. Made this from probably 33 yards out, making the score at 17-6, Warren DSL. Oak Park responded behind James Burnley with his arms and legs, which led to a 9-yard score by Davion Prim. Try failed, made it 17-12, Warren De La Salle. And then Cross, on the defensive side of the football, he played in the secondary. He picked up, draws back, took the ball to the 33-yard line. Burnley played well with his arms and legs. He scored from 5 yards out, added a 2-point conversion. Oak Park took the 2017 lead with 6 minutes to go in the game. De La Salle would drive down the field behind Stanley, got a 22-yard field goal, which banged out the upright in, tying the score with 1:23 to go in the game. And then Oak Park had a chance to win it, but was picked off by Deontay Danley to force overtime. Oak Park started off with the football, but Prim fumbled the ball inside the 10, covered by Jalen Conklin, Warren De La Salle. And then Stanley off the Wildcat scored the winning touchdown from 3 yards out, earning their third straight win over Oak Park, 26-20. So
tight game, man. But you gotta give it to Oak Park. We knew they had the fight in them. Obviously, you don't get to the semis if you don't have fight in you. Coming off of 0 wins in the regular season, We've talked about it at length here on OA Now about their run through the playoffs, and to see that fight in them to come back, take the lead, and that they can't hang their heads. It's one of those, man. If we've seen teams in the past who are fighters and come through, but I have never seen anything like this Oak Park team.
Well, yeah, especially with how that game went down. I mean, like it was stunning how that game absolutely just went down. I mean, but I was surprised that they couldn't stop Brent Stanley. I mean, I was really surprised that they couldn't stop him, and he had a big game against them. I thought, Oak Park, especially with their defense, with them being whole. I mean, I thought that they would I got to give De La Salle a lot of credit here. I mean, they were coming off a 2-4 season. They had, of course, we know about the hazing scandal over there. All the changes they had to go through. So it was really two teams playing. It was really two teams playing, with nothing to lose.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up about only 2 wins in the regular season for De La Salle, because I completely forgot about that. And so you have another underdog. You got 2 underdogs going at it and fighting it out. And it was a fight. And,
yeah, it was.
You mentioned, the fumble in overtime by Oak Park to turn it over, and that kind of sealed their fate. But, little mistakes when you get to this point of the season, when you're in the semifinals going for a state title. You just can't have those.
No, I said this last week. I said this last week when we talked about Oak Park against De La Salle. I said for Oak Park to win, they have to play mistake-free football.
Yeah.
Did they play mistake-free football against De La Salle? Absolutely not. I mean, and it showed. I mean, but, now this opens up. Both these two teams now open up another debate, which is, with this format, do you think everybody should
make the
get in the playoffs? That's another debate. You know what I mean? And I think, that's a very interesting debate that the MHA is going to have to discuss probably at their representative council meetings.
Yeah.
That is going to be this format, I think, has been very successful.
I think absolutely. I'm in 100% agreement with you on that. It was fun to watch. There were teams that were surprises, right? Teams. Oak Park is just one. De La Salle's another. And the excitement for the players to go. We actually have a chance. Right. So and especially the games at the end of the season. Let's say your regular season isn't going all that great, but you still play hard because the last game of the season is the first round of the playoffs.
Right.
Right?
I think, that makes it's very interesting, how the MHA is going to do with this format in 2021. Are they going to keep this format? Are they going to go back?
I hope so.
There's a lot of questions surrounding that one.
I hope so. If they're looking for entertainment value and interest, from the casual observer, people in their hometowns or whatever going, you're in the playoffs, all right, you're gonna get people tuned in, and if it's I'm not going to say that the MHSA is not all about the almighty dollar, but having these the streaming services where you pay the monthly fees and all that stuff, it fits into it's a revenue stream for them. You're going to get more people signing on. And for the fans, your hometown team is got a shot, or at least gets to play a playoff game. And if you win one, hey, why not? Maybe you can be the next Oak Park or De La Salle.
Yeah, both these teams have really made incredible playoff runs, especially on Oak Park's side.
Yeah.
Just how they've been through it. Knocking off Grosse Pointe South, then beating UAD Jesuit, then knocking off Wyandotte, and then knocking off Livonia Churchill.
Yeah.
Oak Park, they had a great run. They had a really, really great run, and I was thinking to myself, I thought Oak Park had a great chance to win this game. and they took a 2017 lead with 6 minutes to go in the game. And then Warren De La Salle behind the play of Stanley got a 22-yard field goal, which banged up the upright. Now, I wonder if that play was no good. If that play would have been no good, then Oak Park, we're talking Oak Park in the state final, taking on Muskegon Motor Shores. So,
yes.
But
that's the beauty of the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many variables, so many little things that can swing a game one way or the other, from the agony of defeat to the joy of victory. And one was the width of an upright and the angle at which the football hit it, and it just reflected in or deflected in for 3. And I wonder if that field goal kind of got in the head of the Oak Park players, because what happened next?
Well, remember, Oak Park had a chance to win, and then Burnley threw a
that's true.
50-50 ball.
That's
a 50-50 ball that was picked off. I was going to, I believe it was Kai Thompson, the wide receiver. I was a little disappointed in his effort on the touchdown they gave up to seal for Warren De La Salle off the Wildcat formation. But I think at the end of the day here, you know what I mean? Like, you got to give Warren De La Salle a lot of credit. You got to give them their coach Don Robb a lot of credit.
Yeah.
But on Oak Park's case, I mean, like, I was going to be honest with you. Oak Park, they had to play a mistake-free game. They didn't, and that's what cost them.
Yeah. And the big mistake in overtime. But you have to say the defense caused the fumble, right? I mean, it's not just like Oak Park went out and dropped it on the turf. So,
right, they fumbled the ball.
But what a game, to come back from 10 down. And we saw other games Oak Park play throughout the playoffs that were tight, right? I mean, they had to battle. These weren't blowout wins they were experiencing to get to where they were. Everything was a fight.
Everything was a fight. Ended up being a great game. Ended up being a great battle. Now let's go from football. I want to talk volleyball. I want to come back to football in a little bit. Going to preview the West Bloomfield Davidson State Final. I want to talk about volleyball a little bit here.
Yeah,
Clarkston,
absolutely.
Clarkston really they got the state semifinals for the first time since 2011. End up going to 5 games with Birmingham Marion, but it wasn't meant to be. Of course, Clarkston fell in 5 in the semifinals. 22-25, 25-18. 11-25, 25-21, 15-11 favor Birmingham Marion.
Oh, wow.
The Mustangs ended up winning the state championship by knocking off Lowell in 3 games. Now, Birmingham Marion was playing with a heavy heart. Their athletic director, Dave Feldman, he passed away from COVID-19 on Thursday.
Oh, no.
And they were playing with heavy hearts in the semifinals and the state finals. So I knew Clarkson had a lot against them, knowing you're playing against a team that has a heavy heart. But when you look at that game, recapping, Claire Nowicki had 22 kills, 18 digs. Paige Gingbrock had 13 kills, 18 digs. Skylar Judas had 23 digs. Shea Borderline had 35 assists. And Sydney Hatzenpratz had 9 kills and 6 blocks for Clarkston.
Wow.
I thought Clarkson played much better in the semifinal than they did in the quarterfinal against Grand Blanc, where they won that one 4 games. I was really disappointed with Clarkston's play in the quarterfinals.
Do you think that had to do with the layoff?
Yes.
Because we talked about it, the timing. Volleyball is all about timing and rhythm, and it takes some time to get that back, and to go cold into the quarters. Yeah, that's got to be difficult.
Yeah, and I think, I do think the layoff had something to do with it, but I also thought Grand Blanc played a good game plan. I really thought in that matchup with Clarkston, I mean, Clarkson looked out of sync. They really, and then until that third set, they started taking over and basically they took over that game, and then in the 4th set, they looked like they were the better team, and they just outwore Grand Blanc with their depth. I mean, and then in the game against Birmingham Marion. Of course, ended up being a classic matchup between those two teams. But that third set was a perfect example for Clarkson. They played absolutely flawless. They played perfect in that third set. Now, I thought if they could have maintained it, then if they would have maintained it, then Clarkson would have been in the state final, but they did not maintain it, and they fell to Birmingham Marion.
Yeah.
So,
and Marion's no slouch. I mean that.
No,
I mean,
I know Maya Cook very well, the head coach, and and let's not forget that team does not have a senior on that squad.
On Marion?
On Marion, they got everybody coming back next year, which that makes it very that much more interesting next year. I mean, and then you look at Clarkson, they're going to lose 4 very good players. They lose, of course, Nowicki. They lose Hassan Frats. They lose Borderline. But they do have Giddy Brock coming back and Judas coming back. That'll help Coach Kelly Pinner.
And the program's deep. They got them lined up. At the factory, waiting to get in.
Oh, absolutely. When you look at volleyball prowess, right now the powers right now is Clarkston and Lake Orion. Both those two teams. They both have got they've got volleyball factories built right now. When you look at it, but when you look at, of course, Birmingham Marion's path, they knocked off Farmington Mercy in the regional final before the pause hit. So basically with Birmingham Marion, we're playing with heavy hearts without their athletic director. I thought, they used that emotion, to win the state title. They blew out Lowell in 3 games. I couldn't believe that. Lowell had a very good player, and Jenna Ratesma. I just couldn't believe that. You know what I mean? So,
hey, when some teams get on a mission, like you said, if they sometimes they can just raise to another level, and there's no explaining it. They just click. Obviously, they had motivation because of the loss and execution. They were obviously hyper-focused to take out Lowell like that. That's surprising to me as well. Because Lowell, they're... the names in these quarterfinals were kind of a who's who, wouldn't you say?
Right.
And it just, for Marion, we saw that they won. It's like, well, if Clarkson's going to go down to the state champ and took them to the limit, they can't hang their heads.
Right, but for Clarkson, this is their first trip since 2011 when they fell Lake Orion in 4 sets. So
really,
yeah, it was their first trip back to Battle Creek. So for the Wolves and Kelly Pinner, they had a good year. They had a really good year. They do got a lot coming back. This team will be back. Obviously knowing Coach Kelly Pinner, I know her very well. They will be back. Bottom line, you can't keep a good team down for long. But now when you look at it now, the new team to beat right now in Division I right now is Birmingham Marion.
Yeah, the future for Marion is super crazy. I don't know the last time we've seen a repeat volleyball champion. There's so many good teams, and you just blink your eye once, and the good teams will zip right by you.
Yeah, I do remember that last team, and it was the Birmingham Marion back in 2010, 2011. Because I remember when I did volleyball, I announced when I announced that regional semifinal game with Lake Orion and Birmingham Marion. I remember I lost my voice that night. When
I wonder why you weren't screaming, were you, Sam?
Well, when you look at the upset, you know what I mean, when that occurred, and I know Ira Gardner, former coach of Birmingham Marion, very well. I remember when I said, I call him the 2-time defending Michigan High School Athletic Association state champion. That usually, you know what I mean? You got to respect what Birmingham Marion's done as a program.
Oh, absolutely.
They were the last time. They were the last team to repeat as back-to-back state champions. So, and I know that program had been on some tough times a little bit, but they're right back at the volleyball queen of the mountain right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and right now they're the team to beat,
Yep, they're the team.
Right now, they're the team to beat.
Yeah, they're the team to beat, and we finally closed the book. You said you had some other good news about an OAA squad that took home a state title over the weekend.
Yes.
We also had girls swimming, correct?
Yes, we had swimming. Of course, Seaholm ended up taking home a state championship over at Grand Rapids Northview on Saturday afternoon with the 309 score. Seaholm edged out Rochester Adams, who took second with 263. Other OA schools in Farmington took fourth at 137. Groves was sixth at 130. Stony Creek was 17th with 48.5. Royal Oak was 20th with 23 points. North Farmington was 21st with 20 points. And Berkeley was 32nd with 6 points. That was all in Division 2.
Now, I have to chime in here a little bit because my background was swimming, right? Mm-hmm. And they scored over 300 to take the title.
300, 309.
I'm not sure if our listeners understand what that means. To score that many points, and for, was it Adams was in the 200s?
Adams was 263.
For Adams to score 263, for those two OA squads to score 500-plus points in a state final, that is domination and depth at levels that you don't usually see. Mm-hmm. If you're a state title winner and you hit maybe 200, you're doing great. But to eclipse that and 300-plus is insane.
I know. And Seaholm won the 400 freestyle relay. Adams was second. Farmington was sixth. Seaholm also won the 200 freestyle relay, where Adams took fifth, and Groves rounded out with sixth in that event. So,
those are all state performances.
Mm-hmm. And Adams ended up taking a 200 medley relay, where Seaholm was right behind him in second, and Farmington was sixth, rounding up that top 10. So that tells you how dominant the OAA was at Grand Rapids Northview. In the Division I state final that took place at Hudsonville, no OAA school placed in the top 15. Blue Bay Hills was the best of the OAA schools to finish 17th with 28 points. Troy took 21st with 21 points. Oxford was 23rd with 20 points. Lake Orion 24th with 18 points. West Bloomfield took 26th with 16 points. Clarkson took 29th with 8 points. So, man, I mean, like, it really wasn't, the OA's day at Hudsonville as much as it was at Northview on that Saturday afternoon. Of course, Lake Orion hosted Division III.
Yes.
But there was no OA teams there. But
that swimming kind of falls under the radar, doesn't it? It flies under the radar.
Sure it does.
And this is the ladies finishing up the season. Amazing athletes in those pools for those schools. And I know the men's swimming has started, considered non-contact sport. Yes. So it's not on pause again. They are continuing to swim, which is good. I'm looking for a positive, Sam, anywhere I can get it. So
anywhere I can get it. I got a lot. I'm still very serious with the governor and Robert Gordon.
Yes. And so the guys are in the pool. They're training. Usually the season is well underway by now with the state finals for the guys, usually March, the first week in March. And so how are they going to handle this? I don't know. Are they going to abbreviate the seasons? Now, we going to get into this schedule now, or do we want to do? What do you want to do?
Well, we can. Let's preview.
Preview the state final game.
Let's preview the state final game. Let's do our projections.
Yeah,
and then we can talk about.
That's the fun stuff. Let's do the fun stuff, and we're at 45.
Yes. Let's look at this game with Davison, and this is going to be really interesting.
Absolutely.
I sent the blog. I'm previewing West Bloomfield Davison. It'll be to Becky.
Okay. So that'll be posted on the orionontv.org news feed.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I do that a lot.
Very good.
But this is going to be a fun game. I mean, both these teams are defensive-minded first teams. When you look at Davison, last 2 games, Davison has allowed only 10 points, including last week's 27-3 blowout at Rockford. Where
yes, I saw that the score was that was stunning.
Yeah, I mean, it was at Rockford.
Yes.
My goodness. I mean, Rockford came in undefeated, but Davison, we know, has been undefeated as well. Their story this year, Brendan Sullivan, their quarterback, enrolled early at Northwestern. So they have a wide receiver turned quarterback in Dion Brown, who's a Wayne State commit. Played every skill position at some time during the season, but especially at wide receiver. He's done a really good job controlling the game, managing the game. He was 7 of 14 for 97 yards, had a 31-yard touchdown pass to Jalen Flowers. And then they have 2 very good running backs in them. They have a bruising running back in Carter Kreiderman. And then they have a speed back as well in Travion Warren. So, and then let's not forget Davison has a very good experienced offensive line as well. Basically, everybody's back from that team. And also on defense, Davison only had one true. They only lost one true guy on that defense, but they've managed really well.
Yeah. So just to back up a second, so did Davison lost some players to early enrollment? Are they still?
Brendan Sullivan.
Okay, so he did leave. So he did go.
Yeah, he did leave. He's
so
at Northwestern right now.
Wow. So that is. Do you think that could be a sticking point because West Bloomfield has their full complement of stars coming in?
Davison's done a very good job proving doubters wrong that this is not a one guy team. I mean, you look at I saw them against nobody Detroit Catholic Central, and they look very good. They look very good, and their defense is absolutely nasty. I mean, Harry Unger is an Air Force commit going there, and what he's done at linebacker. I mean, Will Watkins has been very good at defensive end. He had 2 picks last week against Rockford, including one where he tipped the ball, and the ball goes right into his hands for a touchdown against Rockford. And so Davison's defense is absolutely nasty. They are absolutely nasty. This is a very good defense that they're going up against. And they got a good. I mean, their offense has been going along. I mean, I know Coach Jacob Liglaars very well, and Davison. You know, this is a very good football team. I mean, there's no doubt. But I am concerned though that this team has not been tested. And here's a little side note here. Yes, is the first meeting between these 2 teams. But
really?
They met in junior. Yes, but they met in junior varsity football this season when they went to Davison. You know, West Bloomfield's JV went to Davison to take on the Cardinals in JV football action. You know, so
but that had. I mean, it's amazing that they're so close and haven't played ever.
Mm-hmm.
Not even like in an out of conference game or a playoff matchup. I mean, that's crazy. It is crazy. After all these years and the quality of programs these guys are throwing out there, that they haven't met up once.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first meeting. I mean, like West Bloomfield and Davison, they're close. You know, I mean, they're close. I mean, like, you know, West Bloomfield for them. I mean, they go to Lake Orion, Clarks, and Oxford. I mean, like, you know, and this is a very interesting game for me because you know, both these 2 teams I know very well.
Oh, you broke up there for a second, Sam. My thing is, okay, good defense or stellar defense versus good defense.
Yes.
Do you see West Bloomfield running into issues if they make them one-dimensional?
They're going to have to throw against Davison. They're going to have to balance it out because I know Davison's going to be paying a lot of attention on Donovan Edwards, obviously.
As everybody does.
As everybody. But I think the key in this game is going to be Alex Short. Again, if Short balances it out, if he can play with if he like he did against Belleville, manage the game, make timely plays when needed. You got a good offensive line to help you against a very physical and very talented Davidson defense. But you just got to make plays. Don't make mistakes. Play mistake-free football. If they do that, I think West Bloomfield is going to be in this game. I mean, Davison, I know, has got a lot of experience, which is going to be very interesting. Of course, West Bloomfield, let's not forget their coaching staff's been here as well. So it's going to be a really fun game over there on Saturday afternoon at Ford Field.
What is the mix of the offensive setup? We talked about their defense. What's the offensive mix? Are they kind of a 50-50 run pass? Is it run?
50-50 run pass. Yeah, they're 50-50 run pass. They still run the RPO offense over there at Davison. They have a very good power back in Carter Kryman. They have a very good speed back in Tavion Warren.
And what's the receiving core like?
Jalen Fowler's at wide receiver, Clark Hamilton at wide receiver, and secondary.
Incapable.
They're going up against really good DBs that West Bloomfield has with Maxwell Hurston and company. Davison's got a very good receiving core. And their quarterback, Deion Brown's was a wide receiver for a time, but he's done a very good job taking over the reins for Brendan Sullivan. So it's gonna be really interesting. It's gonna be really interesting.
I mean, this has another low score written all over it, doesn't it?
It does. But Davison has not seen a player like Donovan Edwards, though, which could benefit in the West Bloomfield's advantage. I mean, if Edwards plays like a man possessed in this game, he can carry a team by himself. That's obvious. But the key for West Bloomfield is going to be is you got to make sure, Davison and Belleville are two different teams. So you're going to have to be physical with Davison. I know Davison's physical. You got to use what got you the dance. I mean, athletically favors West Bloomfield. Physicality favors Davison. Now, what helps West Bloomfield is that they played against schools that are similar to Davison, like Lake Orion, Oxford, and Clarkston, which should help them in that matchup with Davison. Davison, of course, playing Rockford last week really, I think is going to get them prepared for this game. But I'm not sure if they've seen the athleticism that they're going to see with West Bloomfield, though. So that makes it up to be a really interesting football game between those two teams.
All right, it's time to step up and make that pick. I think last week you and I were both pretty darn close.
We were 1-1.
I know, but with calling the how the games were kind of going to unfold, I didn't see overtime, but I knew it was going to be close with the two heavyweights. And again, here we go. We got two heavyweights going at it again. Defending champ, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
got defending champ versus challenger. I see this game being tight. I see this game being close. I just think Donovan Edwards is the difference in this game. I think it's going to be I'll take that back. Jake Ward is going to win it for West Bloomfield because I know a couple years ago, Coach Ron Bellamy made a mistake in going for it on that fourth down against Clarkston, where he had a very good field goal kicker. I don't think he makes a mistake this time around. Jake Ward is going to be, I think he's going to kick the winning field goal. I think it's going to be a 10-7 game.
Whoa!
And I think West Bloomfield is going to take home the state championship for the first time ever.
10-7.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
So it's going to be more of a ball control type game then?
Absolutely. I think it's going to be an absolute control
working
ball
that
game.
clock and avoiding turnovers and first down,
Mm-hmm.
first down, first down. Try not to make a mistake, right?
Yep, that's what I'm looking at.
Wow,
Who do you got?
I didn't see 10-7.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking more of like 21-17. I was also thinking field goal.
Well, both defenses are very good too. So
They are, but the offenses can do damage as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking more 21-17 West Bloomfield. Again, I had it written down before you even said it. I think it comes down to a field goal, and West Bloomfield goes away with the W.
I agree with you there. That's gonna be a fun game.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be a fun game.
And I'm glad these two teams are meeting up. It's there's no fluke that they're here. They've been solid all season long. And you have talent on both sides. You got name recognition. You got coaching. You've got everything you'd want in a D1 state final.
This is a perfect matchup. This is going to be a fun game. I really do think that it's going to be a really fun game. So
you don't see a 3-2 again?
No, I don't see a 3-2 again. I'd be absolutely stunned if it was a 3-2 game again.
I think I'm still stunned that actually happened. I watched that whole game, and that actually happened. That's crazy. But yeah, I'm excited for it, and I hope all the listeners are excited for the game. And we wish those guys at West Bloomfield all luck, and both teams to be healthy and safe. Going into the game and coming out of the game, that's what's important.
It is very important for everybody here, and then of course the fact that we're getting some sports back, which is a positive. Of course, the non-contact sports are coming back, but I'm still a little disturbed about the contact sports still being paused for 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
Still a little disturbed about that.
Yeah, that was kind of that was out of the blue. We got our schedules up and modified here in Lake Orion for coverage for ONTV to go out there. And then we were thrown that curveball, and they said it's another 2-week delay for the contact sports. I mean, the state must have saw something or whatever. I'm not sure why.
I don't understand why either. I mean, and to me,
the only thing I can think of, Sammy, sorry to cut you off, is the new variant of COVID poking its ugly head, here in Michigan. It is here. And so that is the only real modifier that's kind of rolling around that would have caused them to delay it. But we do know that February 1st, the first week of February, they're going to have practice begins again.
The contact sports can have practice.
Okay, good. But that's the first week of competition.
Right. The first week competition is February 4th for basketball. A little later for wrestling, and then cheer will be underway on February 1st as well.
All right.
That's the hope. I mean, now, if I'm Whitmer and Gordon, you know what I mean? The thing here is this. I mean, you've already done this to these kids twice. You've done this to them twice.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I don't understand.
We've gone over this 1,000 times. I know your position. I'm sure all the listeners know. And
I wrote a column on it.
Yeah, and again, they obviously have the safety and health of these athletes in mind when they come up with these decisions. I just find it odd that you make a decision and then you go back on it a week later. It just kind of throws you off a little bit. But I understand, why they may be doing it. It's coming. There's at least a schedule. In the past, we didn't even have a time frame. So,
we've had a time frame for, the MHA put times. I know the MHA, in my opinion, I know they got to be held accountable too. I mean, for false hope with these kids. I mean, but it's Whitmer and Gordon that basically are saying, okay, let's do it, extend another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When's enough?
Well, we'll have to leave it there, Sam. Hey, we'll see you next week, yeah?
Yep. Take care, Ian.
Take it easy, buddy. We'll see you next week. Sammy Taramina.
Yep.
And that's it for this edition of OAA Now. The views on the show are Sammy and mine alone. The show is produced by Sammy Taramina here at ONTV. Turn on those games. One more game. Cheering on the Lakers of West Bloomfield. One more, and then we'll have some more information about the fall sports. That's it. We'll see you next week. See ya!